I'm Liz Morris. I'm the Deputy Director at the Center for WorkLife Law. I have spent the last 8 or so years focused on work and family to advance WorkLife Law's mission of ensuring that all people are able to care for their family members without jeopardizing their economic security. There's no question that the system is failing mothers, it's failing other caregivers, and in many cases, quite literally, caregivers are being forced to choose between taking care of their loved ones and keeping the paying jobs that they need to survive. Family caregiver discrimination can take many forms, but at its core, it is unfair treatment or worse treatment of somebody who is taking care of a family member typically based on assumptions about how that person is going to behave or stereotypes about what that person should be doing or not doing. It can have devastating health and economic consequences for workers and their families. It impacts parents of all genders, people who are caring for ill or disabled or aging family members, people who are pregnant, who are breastfeeding, really anybody who has the responsibility for providing care for another person. But it does disproportionately impact women, people of color, LGBTQ plus folks, and low-wage workers. It's no secret that women are more likely to provide care. We saw during the pandemic the incredible impact on women of color, especially, who lost pay, lost their jobs entirely because of their caregiving responsibilities. I think it's interesting. Most people are familiar with the gender wage gap, but I think it's not as widely known that bias against mothers is the strongest form of gender bias against women in the workplace. And it is largely responsible. Bias against mothers is largely responsible for the gender pay gap. And this motherhood penalty is actually most severe for low-income women. Also, people of color and immigrants are more likely to live in multi-generational households. They're also more likely to provide direct care to their family members when they need it, as compared to sort of outsourcing care. And so, naturally, they're more likely to experience that form of discrimination. And then finally, there is no federal law that explicitly prohibits discrimination against family caregivers. But at the Center for WorkLife Law, our researchers found that 1 out of every 3 American workers is actually covered already by either a state or local law that prohibits caregiver discrimination. Now, of course, the flip side of that is that 2 out of every 3 workers in this country still needs that protection. 4 states already have these laws on the books for private employers. That's Alaska, Delaware, Minnesota, and New York. And then in this past year, we saw bills that were active in California, in Illinois, in New Jersey. These laws prohibit employers from discriminating against family caregivers. My first piece of advice to legislators who are considering this type of legislation is do it. It is so important, and it speaks to so many core values of progressives today. And we really need more lawmakers showing up for mothers and other caregivers and for people who need care.